What's going on? SEVelocity back at you on a wonderful Sunday afternoon, talking some basketball. This week on the plate, before we get into it, we are going to be talking about top fives in each position. We did point guard last week. Now we're going to do the rest this week: shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. And then we're going to talk a bit about Ben Simmons because there's been some interesting topics. I got into a little bit of dispute with some social media. I tweeted something that got a lot of likes and a lot of attention, but also a lot of replies back, arguing with some of the Philadelphia fans. So we'll talk about that a bit. We're also going to talk about um, Ben Simmons requesting a trade and potential trade destinations a bit because the Sacramento Kings have emerged as one of the potential suitors. Um, we are also going to talk about Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, hopefully, as long as we have time. And I think one more topic we'll get to, but we'll see where time permits.
hmm
So, you want to say anything to the people before we start?
Yeah, what's going on, everyone? Finally back to our regular weekly routine. Yeah, we got some fun topics to get into this week, and just ready to hop right in.
All right. So, top five players in each position all time. We already established our point guards. Now, it would only be right to shift directly to the point guard's best friend, the shooting guard. All right. Now, I can't imagine in any world that our number ones will be any different. Probably our number twos too. I hope to God. Uh, so I will. You want me to just start with my entire list and then go to you?
Yeah,
Okay. So, uh, my number one shooting guard is going to be Michael Jordan. I think that's pretty clear. Uh, I don't think there's anyone that's been better, more competitive, and has won more consistently. I think that's a pretty easy answer. I don't think there's much of explaining I should have to do. Um, Now, number two, I also think shouldn't be a lot of explaining. I think this is pretty clear too. Kobe Bryant, without a doubt. God rest his soul. Um, Again, he learned directly from Michael Jordan, and the competitiveness from both of them took him to a different level because they hated losing. Let's be real. Now, three, four, and five. This is super tough for me. Um, there's three and four is really difficult. I literally have a list right here that I wrote down, and I'm gonna switch it from three and four from what I originally had because I actually don't agree with it now that I think about it. My number three is going to be Allen Iverson, and I know. So here's the thing. I'll tell you right here. Three and four, I have Dwayne Wade and Allen Iverson, and on my list right here, I had Wade at three and AI at four. But now looking back on it, I want to put AI at three and have Wade at four. It's not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think that AI was really good at what he did, and I think that Dwayne Wade was too. But I think Dwayne Wade was a little bit different in his game style, and I liked AI shooting a little bit more. Um, Nothing crazy. I love Dwayne Wade too. Watching him grow up. I mean, like, listen, I used to like the Heat at one point. I was always a Knicks fan, but the Heat were one of my favorite teams to watch. Dwayne Wade and Shaq was always fun for the very little time that they had together. And that also got me into watching Dwayne Wade because I was always a big Shaq fan. It's once LeBron decided to join the team where I started to uh, regress in my love for the Heat. Um,
just call it hate. You hated
it,
them.
it, it was hate. Yes, it was hate. Um, I hated how much better than the rest of the league that they were going to be. Um,
Well, we had anticipated.
yeah, we anticipated we definitely didn't. I don't think anyone expected the Mavericks to win against the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals,
Yeah,
and we also didn't expect.
OKC to be as good as they were that year because
Well,
they were
that
yeah,
too, but
and the Spurs they're just always slept on because they're boring.
like the Miami Heat were also they didn't do a lot of load management. Most of those guys played almost every game for the Heat when
Yeah,
they like their first year. I
yeah,
think a lot of us were surprised with how I think they were still the number one seed, but they weren't very far ahead of everyone. Everyone thought they were gonna be blowing everyone out of the water, and they were only a couple games ahead in first place. So I expected them to be levels above. Um,
Yeah, well, I think the thing is too, like with the first go round with the Heat. I think this
Chemistry.
is what, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. A lot of people forget that, like especially when they try to compare to the KD to the Warriors move. KD was just another piece like added to a set team. Literally, the whole Miami Heat roster was new except for D Wade and Udonis Haslem,
Yeah,
and Eric Spoelstra was the new coach.
I was gonna say because you not only had Chris Bosh and LeBron added to the team, but you had guys like and this is
Mario
just the dynasty in
Chalmers,
general. You had Mario
yeah,
Chalmers come along, you had Shane Battier come along.
he wasn't there at first.
That's
He
what I'm saying,
came
but in general,
after,
the
yeah.
dynasty. Um,
But I'm just saying that first year when they just got
yeah,
together, everybody was new except Wade and Haslam.
yeah, it was a very weird time. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, we'll have D Wade at 4, and now number 5. There's two different people I had on my list. And I looked at a lot of different lists too for reference to see which one I would agree with. Now MJ's top 5, he had Jerry West at 3. Um, because I guess he was originally shooting guard and he transitioned to a point guard. Um,
yeah. I consider him a shooting guard.
I'm very torn. I have him and Clyde Drexler were fighting for the 5th spot. Um,
Mm.
but I would, I guess, go with Jerry West. I think Jerry West is slightly better, especially for his his timeline. He was very good compared to a lot of the other players. Clyde Drexler was a star shooting guard, but he wasn't, like the best in the league or anything at the time.
West is a logo, and his nickname was Mr. Clutch for a reason.
Yeah, so we'll go with Jerry West at number 5. Now,
All right. Yeah.
the
No,
floor
I
is
think
yours.
I don't have a problem with your list at all. It's a great list.
Thank you.
Mine's really similar. Like when I get with the end, I'm gonna have a little like as like commentary, because I'm sure with these lists we're taking everything into account, like
Yeah,
accomplishments, how they played at their peaks, and longevity.
yeah, and the
But
format of the league at the time.
yeah, so my five is gonna go MJ, Kobe, AI. That's actually the exact same weight in West, but but now this is where I'm gonna get some context. Uchi, I'm sure you've seen me like heard me say it in the past before when I said how AI better than Kobe. It was really my vibe because like I'm a bigger AI fan.
Yeah, of
But
course.
rightfully in actually ranking them all time, Kobe just absolutely deserves to be put ahead of AI. His dedication to the sport, AI was an idiot. I love him today. He's my second favorite player of all time. Like, let's be real. If AI longevity is really what hurt his career because all the drinking, he didn't take care of his body. He had too many kids, so much drama off the court,
Well,
and on top of that, he didn't put in as much work to take care of his body like Kobe did. He didn't condition himself, so
do you,
he was a train wreck, but a surreal talent. But here's the thing. This is what I really. But when I look at him and Kobe, when I look at them both in their primes, my honest opinion, I think they were more or less the same level, like playing at their heights. But this is the big distinction, and this is where it comes to preference for me. I looked at AI as a better all-around offensive player in this regard because let's just say it was a clash in their ability to score the ball. Because in
yeah,
fact, I was surprised AI actually averaged more points than Kobe all time. But they could both score the ball like from practically everywhere. And with AI's size being so small, being able to finish at the rim like he could, that was impressive. And his quickness, but AI, I think, was a significantly better playmaker, better passer than Kobe, because he's actually gone this season averaging 10 assists per game before.
yeah,
But with the Sixers team that went to that finals, he was the only scorer on the team, so he did what he had to do, which again was impressive. The only team to beat the Lakers in a single playoff game that year is Shaq and Kobe, and he played on injuries. But now, what the drawback from AI was given that he was 6 foot flat, he was a huge liability defensively. And despite what most people think, I don't think AI was a bad defender. I think he was a really good defender. He could guard point guards, but the thing is, when teams would get the mismatches on him, like people 6'6" guards like Kobe and like Ray Allen, those guys, like they're just so much bigger and they're stronger than him
yeah.
too. So teams would exploit that. So that's where it was a liability. But now on Kobe's end, again, don't need to say anything about his scoring ability, but Kobe was a nightmare on defense. Like as a passer, I mean, I don't think we put pass and Kobe in the same sentence, but Defensively, Kobe was a phenomenal perimeter defender. Like he gave team nightmares. Like people feared him on both ends of the floor. So I think taking that into account, that's where I would understand like argument for Kobe, of course, because also being a smaller player like AI was, it's going to come with more limitations in
Right.
your game as well. But I think in terms of like their abilities, what they bring to the table, or I really have them more or less on the same level. Even Kobe himself that he thinks that AI was underrated. Like people don't understand how great he was in his prime. But again, Kobe sustained it for a longer period of time. But I think AI had a better start to his career because I think when they both got drafted, AI was better than Kobe at the time.
Do you
But then, go ahead.
do you remember when NBA on TNT did an all-time draft?
How long ago was this?
It was like probably 10 years ago.
I don't remember it
They
actually.
they did an all-time draft and Reggie Miller was on this. Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley, Chris Webber, Steve Kerr, Kenny Smith, and I forgot who the last person was. They did six all-time teams and they did a full-time draft. And Charles Barkley had the first pick and he picked Allen Iverson.
Yeah, I mean, people have said like different legends have said AI they felt had the potential like to be in like greatest of all time. Some said if he was a few inches taller.
Do
Some said if he took care of his body.
do you think if he had Kobe Bryant's mentality that he would be a top three player all time?
No,
No.
because well, oh wait, mentality as in his work ethic and
Yeah.
actually take care of himself. Yeah, well, that's hard. That's hard. I'm not gonna go that far. He could
Well,
potentially be because I don't know. He would have lasted longer in the league. There would be a stronger argument. But again, being that small, yeah,
well,
I'm also taking into account the versatility of the other guys.
what about Michael Jordan's work ethic? Not saying it's better than Kobe's, but Michael Jordan, when he got the
Uh,
crap beaten out of him by the Pistons, he went to the gym and gained 30 pounds and made it all muscle.
I know, but, but even still, like I'm
I
sure
know he's shorter.
if Kobe was in that situation, he would do the same thing. Like
Right.
Kobe was built strong and sturdy, like MJ was too. But yeah, it's hard to say if he will be like top three all time. Like we'd have to. That's something we'd have to see
Right.
because like there's so many like great players out there he'd have to compete with,
Yeah.
and then the fact that he's so small, it already puts him at a disadvantage. But I will say this: I think Allen Iverson would get more respect on all time lists if he had a ring to go with his name. Like
100%.
especially that year, the 2001 finals. If that Sixers team had won, because just them getting to the finals, everyone
Was a
was
miracle, yeah.
amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
no,
so
AI forever. And now my guy D Wade. Like I'm gonna put that everyone my three favorite players of all time. You've probably heard me say it before: LeBron, AI, and Wade in that order. D Wade again, just of all the shooting guards that I seen, because I'll say, because as I always say, people in like Kobe's era, I don't really count them as like our generation because their peaks is when like we were really small kids, like 5-year-old practically. But guys like D Wade, people that like we actually saw like at an age where we actually
peak.
had basketball sense. Yeah, I'll say with Wade, his I think well, can't really call the problem because like I mean, he's widely regarded as the third guy on the shooting guards list, but I think longevity hurt him a bit in the sense that number one, if you're just gonna look at stats, there are gonna be people that you put over him, but people forget this after he won that championship with Shaq, he got he had surgeries on his knees from before, but he had the surgery after and he had the cartilage like practically removed from his knee, so his knees were basically worn down. He's had knee problems since his college days, and that's why the Miami Heat dynasty. That's why we saw like in terms of their dominance, it wasn't of dominant as we anticipated being because of Wade. He fell off significantly. He didn't end up being garbage, but we clearly saw he was not going to be impactful enough. Because in fact, we saw significant load management in him, especially in the 2014 season. He had to miss many games because he didn't have his knees with him. Like he fell off so much that I if I were to say this, in his prime, obviously he was in the conversation for best player in the league during the Miami Heat run. We could say that he would probably like just slightly above a borderline All Star.
I think I think the problem is he is the most out of everyone in the shooting guard position. I think he is by far the most athletically gifted shooting guard. I mean
I don't
maybe with
maybe
argument with MJ,
MJ, yeah.
but like I like stamina,
Oh yeah.
vertical, everything,
Oh,
speed.
is it? Oh yeah. One thing we didn't even talk about too is his defense. At 6 foot
Yeah,
four, he was such a nightmare. Like I think he was a better defensive player than Kobe was.
like
MJ, I'm not sure, but around that level.
but like my point being is like with all those knee injuries and everything like that, like his athletic ability was one of the reasons he was so good, and like now you're taking that all away from him with knee problems and everything, so it regressed his career towards the end. But he
But,
was able to evolve into a good passer and a better
but the thing is,
facilitator from the shooting guard spot too.
he's that's always been a strength in his game though. I think the thing is, he started relying more on his mid-range game and
Yeah,
started hitting more jump shots and actually started to hit some threes later on. Because even despite the knee injuries and stuff, and after LeBron left, he was still a quality player in the league. Like
yeah,
he
he
was
made it
within
work.
the top 10. We could even argue top five. Because there was a point where the shooting guard position looked weak. He was within maybe the top five shooting guards in the league for still quite a period of time in the league.
Yeah,
And we could definitely say among clutch players all time, Dwayne Wade is definitely one of them.
should have been a Heat player for life.
Yeah.
Cavs and
Hey,
Bulls, unbelievable.
it doesn't matter. The Dwayne Wade, Miami is Wade County.
Yeah. So all right, and do you have anything to contribute on Jerry West, or should we move to the next position?
Jerry West, nope, no problem with it at all.
There's a reason
I
he's the
mean,
logo. That's it.
yeah, and he should be the logo forever, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Actually, I really want to talk about that quick.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of talk about Kobe being the logo.
I was emphatically 100,000% against it
I agree.
because I'm thinking this: if anybody ever should have been the logo, replace Jerry West as the
We
logo, it
know
should
who
have
should
been
be. Yeah.
Michael Jordan. He already has the Jumpman logo on Jordan Brand.
Yeah.
That should be the silhouette on the league if you want to change it. That wasn't the case. Nobody gets to be the logo.
Right. And not to be shrewd, like Kobe is one of the best players of all time, but not to like sound really brutal. Um, I don't think his death justifies just putting him on the NBA logo right after. Like,
Yeah,
because that
definitely
was
not.
like one of the big arguments was, oh, well, he died at such a young age. It was so tragic. He was such a talented player. He should be on the logo. I don't think that's really fair.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do? Every time a NBA legend dies, we make them the logo?
Right. So I think Jerry West's perfect fit too, because he's such an old generation too that a lot of people.
They're gonna forget him if he's not the logo.
Right, and he's going to be kind of buried in the past. No one's going to forget Michael Jordan. Um,
Yeah.
and Kobe's more recent too. And it's such an old generation too, where if it was one of the newer generations, we're gonna have people every year who are vouching to be on the logo next. So
Mm.
not changing it at all is the better decision.
Oh yeah, I wanted to throw one more thing about D Wade too.
Okay.
Even though we have him, he's widely regarded as the third best shooting guard all time, but we have him at fourth. Let's be real. There's another huge reason why he'll never be considered like arguably like the greatest shooting guard of all time, and it's kind of like unfortunate because of the situation. Because there was never a season where he was where he was the best shooting guard of all time. I know maybe when he won the championship, maybe some people might have said, "Oh, he's better than Kobe now," but he was not better than Kobe. I love
Right.
D Wade, but he wasn't. But yeah, but he would never ever the best shooting guard in the league because he coexisted with Kobe. And then by the time it would have been his time to be. His knees had already brought his game down, and James Harden had ascended.
And that's kind of the problem with Clyde Drexler too, because he would probably be 6 or 7. He was never the best shooting guard in the league either. It was always Michael
Yeah,
Jordan. Um,
yeah. But what I'm saying though is that him and Jordan, they were like the same. They were literally like the same age, same era. Wade was supposed to be like after Kobe, pre
right.
Harden,
Yeah.
but because of Wade's knees, it kept him from getting there.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. So small forward. I will go first. Um, it's gonna hurt coming out of my mouth, but I think it's pretty clear who
No,
number one is.
I was gonna say we're gonna make this a serious list. I don't want to hear any puns or jokes or anything.
Yeah, so this one hurt coming out to make my number one small forward, but it is indeed Kevin Durant. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
It's LeBron, of course it
I'm
is.
gonna. And the fact it hurts to show there's still a hater in you somewhere.
There is some part hater in me. It's grown to mostly respect, but there is still part hater. Um, yeah, I mean, he's the most dominant small forward to ever play basketball. He was also the best all around in almost every aspect of the game, so I cannot knock him. He One of his bigger weaknesses was 3-point shooting, and he was still pretty good at it. So, like, that says something. He was able to always pass. He plays phenomenal defense. Great shot blocker. Great facilitator. Great scorer. Powerhouse in the box. So, I mean, there's not much I could really say. Good mid range too. Um, that's a pretty clear answer. So, I mean, I don't think I have anything else to say because that's an easy answer. Number two is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to go with Larry Bird for now. Um, I think there's other people that might evolve to go past him, but right now I think Larry Bird's number two. Um, I think all around 3-point shooting and just overall success kind of puts him in that spot. Number three, though, I'm going to go with Kevin Durant. I know he's still kind of around his prime right now or going towards the end of his prime, but I think that, you know, off of his overall scoring ability. He's one of the best scorers to ever touch a basketball court. I think that he deserves to be there. Not necessarily lacking on defense, but maybe, well, definitely worse at defense than LeBron overall, all time. But I would say scoring is the reason why he's there. Uh, Number four, I'm going to go with Julius Erving. Um,
The Dr. J, in case you youngins out there don't know.
yeah, this guy right here. Uh, Phenomenal player, always fun to watch. Could do almost anything. I learned that especially in 2K when I got burned from the 3-point range multiple times by him, and I didn't even know that he was such a good 3-point shooter. Um,
You can't even count 2K on that because when you use the all-time greats in there, they kind of stuff their stats a bit. He wasn't.
Let me tell you, real quick side story. I used the 2000s All Stars, which was like Kobe Bryant, LeBron, Shaquille O'Neal, like really good players, right?
Yeah.
And I go against, and I'm playing on a pretty hard difficulty, but I can usually win most of the games by 10 plus. Um, I've gotten better since we last played. I put a lot of work in. So, I don't just shoot threes anymore. I do pick and rolls and all types of stuff. But my point being is that for some reason, whatever the reason is, the old teams, because I went and played against the 70s All Stars, which I think was like John Havlicek, Oscar Robertson, I think Kareem. Oh my gosh, I I would put Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal down low, and they would have Kareem and Elgin Baylor, who is a very short power forward, and I was getting ripped apart in
Wait,
rebounding.
I thought he was a small forward.
They list him as a power forward, and
It might have been just for the All-Star team.
let me tell you, I got ripped apart down low in terms of rebounding with Shaq and Tim Duncan down low. I mean, it wasn't even just Kareem too. They were jumping over me. Oscar Robertson was getting boards over him. I was getting blown apart. And then the defense, I would take these shots, and every time someone was right in my face, I would set like 4 screens, and I would never get open. And then they would come down and shoot it with 3 people in their face and drill it. And I was like, what is happening? It's aggravating. I 2 attempts I finally won, but I was livid.
Yeah, that's what 2K does.
Yeah, they treat the old generation very highly. That's all I'll say. Anyway, where was I? So Julius Erving 4, yeah, he was one of the people that was wrecking me at one of those points in one of the games I was playing. Now, number 5, I am going to go with Scottie Pippen. Um, I think that he is under-recognized. I understand that he played with Michael Jordan. He was a lot in his shadow, and he wasn't particularly extremely successful without MJ. But he was a very good player, and he was one of the first people to be kind of a point forward in a sense, like similar to LeBron bringing up the ball, and he was very good at it. So I feel like that deserves some recognition, and
Yeah,
that's my list.
fair list. Mine is similar, but I'm gonna surprise you with something.
Okay,
Number one, of course, LeGoat James, LeBron James, my favorite player of all time. Again, as Evan said, I mean, I think you really summed up one way all around play, because I look at it like this: the small forward position. I don't know if I told you this before. Is actually my favorite position on the basketball court, because in terms of like your build and all the skills and
you could do
abilities,
everything.
everything averages out at the small forward. Then most of them aren't as quick as the point guards, but quicker than the centers. Not as strong as the centers, but stronger than the point guards. In every aspect, it averages out in them, and they're expected to be your most well-rounded player on the court. And LeBron James exemplifies that, because he exceeds like the average small forward expectations in many
And there's nothing
regards.
he's really bad at, like that you can think
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Like if you really need to find flaws in like his game, you have to go like into nitpicking, like into
Yeah,
real specific stuff, like his scoring ability. He's among the greatest scorers of all time. But if you really look deep into it, his weakness is like free throw shooting and
right. And
three
it
point
wasn't even that
shooting.
bad at it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't need to say anything there. Number two, Larry Legend, the Birdman. Now, it's funny. I say this. People look at me funny at first, but after I explain, they understand. I actually call Larry Bird LeBron James before LeBron James in this regard. Obviously, there's a big difference in their ability to score the ball. LeBron being so physical and
Yeah,
freakishly athletic, Larry Bird being a shooter, the polar opposites. But being a small forward with elite scoring ability, that's practically among the arguably greatest of all time. But on top of that, having the playmaking ability that's beyond majority of the point guards to ever play the game. Like Larry Bird, I don't think he was as good a pure ball handler as like LeBron
right.
was, but his passing ability, he could practically pass the ball as good as Magic Johnson could. I mean, Magic was probably a step above him, but his passing was on that level. So
Underrecognized, yeah.
if anything, he was actually literally the first point forward. But like, I understand what you're saying with Scotty though, like the first point forward to bring the ball up the court, because that
Yeah,
wasn't really
like
Larry.
normally, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of passing ability, he was like in a way, yeah, he's a perfect comparison to Jokic in a sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and again, at one point he was the greatest shooter like NBA history. Like still, people have him in the top five and pure shooters list. He could really score everyone on the court. Amazing closer, clutch, and actually he was a great rebounder too. He averaged 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
His flaws in his game really comes down to, I mean, I want to call it flaws, athleticism, but again, it proves you don't always need to be athletic to be great.
Yeah.
And I'll say defense. He wasn't a terrible defender, but defense was never one of his real strong attributes.
Yeah.
N- and number three, yeah, at first, like I was thought I was gonna struggle a bit for the small forward this whole time, because when I think about it, because of like how versatile they are, like there are a lot of good out there. But yeah, I think it's about time to put Kevin Durant there, because I've had him top five for a while, but I think it's fair to put him there now. And I get what you're coming from. Like you're contemplating maybe there's a point in time where he might eclipse Larry Bird.
Yeah.
I don't think so yet, because I don't think like offensively, like we could say KD probably a better more gifted pure scorer than Larry Bird, but his impact overall offensively, like Larry's passing ability, in a way offensively, Larry's advantage over KD's the same as LeBron's. Like LeBron's ability to pass the ball is really what
I
makes a
think
difference.
I think he needs two more rings and two Finals MVPs to get past Larry Bird.
Yeah,
Even if it's with the Nets.
I'm not even necessarily looking to see if he has to like necessarily win the title, but I just want to see him like really go out there with a team that that actually has competition and that's like out there on the floor. Cause you real like when the OKC against the Golden State Warriors, that series, like we saw that KD he played extremely poorly, like in a lot of the games. Like maybe he burned out in the fourth quarter. Whereas LeBron, when we seen him lose in like the NBA finals and stuff, we seen that he was still clearly like the best player like on the floor most of them.
What if he goes to the finals this year against the Lakers and he
Yeah.
puts up 35 a game and wins Finals MVP and wins the series?
No, yeah. Well, then first of all, you know what I personally don't count in terms of weight. Like, yeah, we have to say he's a two-time champion, but none of those rings mean anything to me. But that one would certainly
Do
that
you
would be unrefuted, irrefutable.
now out of curiosity, this is like a side note. Do you think that LeBron and Kevin Durant would guard each other in the NBA Finals? Because I feel like we're going into an
No,
era where a lot of the time the stars aren't guarding each other anymore. Like
that
even
that 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 one will be tricky. They might have moments, but for the most part, I'm gonna say no. I feel like Kevin Durant is might end up playing AD for the most part.
Yeah, like even if we go back 10 years, I remember watching a lot of the time Carmelo and LeBron guarding each other. And like,
Yeah,
obviously Carmelo wasn't a great defender, but it was still entertaining to watch because it
yeah,
was a fun matchup. But now where you've kind of gone to an era where it's more we're going to put someone who's very uh, proficient in defense guarding that player. But like it's
yeah.
such a weird thing when you talk about the Lakers and Nets because they're mostly all-stars, so all of them are going to be guarding each other in a sense. Um,
Hmm.
like, is Russell Westbrook going to guard James Harden or Kyrie Irving? Is Kevin Durant going to be guarded by Anthony Davis or LeBron? Is and then who's going to guard Kyrie? So it's interesting.
Yeah, but still, back to your initial question. I think what is really going to take for me to put KD over Bird is I just need to see him dominate in the finals. Like when it's not like a total lopsided matchup, and like you know just continue to be him because like those times he lost in the finals against the Heat. Well, he was too young at the time. Still, he didn't play as well as he did regular season. Those years when they lost to the Spurs in the playoffs, I get the Spurs. They contained him like a bit. We haven't really seen him be super dominant those times in his playoff losses because and I just saying I need to see him like dominate in a not lopsided matchup where he's actually drawing double teams and stuff because and the reason why that'll do it for me because there's something that I heard like with undisputed and then research looking it up myself in one of Larry Bird's like finals appearances. I don't know if he won or lost a year. He had two games where he only put up like 8 points. So
Yeah,
because he's a legend, we're going to be deferential, and because it's so long ago before we were born, we're not familiar with what happened at the time. But in reality, these legends back in the day, even Michael Jordan, believe it or not, people, even they had their bad moments.
yeah.
So in fairness, we can't just crucify these guys and say if they have a bad moment, they can never do something about it.
Um, even I think when he was on the Warriors, if he didn't go and tear his Achilles against the Raptors,
They're winning.
well, right, I think they would win. But like if you watched Kevin Durant go and burn Kawhi Leonard for 40 while Kawhi Leonard was guarding him, you would definitely go look at that and be like, wow, like that was one of the best defensive
Yeah,
players that just got burned.
yeah, yeah, but at the same time, it still would do it for me because like a guy like Kevin Durant's level, I don't care how great a defensive player you are, you need to put a double team on them because
Yeah,
like even when the Miami Heat played a Spurs team again, it's funny how people say Kawhi locked up LeBron, which is not true. I will say he contained it. If he did, LeBron would have averaged near 40, but he held him to averaging like 28 points a game
right.
and maybe like 47% shooting, so not far off from 50. But it was but what people forget is there was a lot of help defense. Like Kawhi was the one pressuring him on the perimeter, containing his playmaking and stuff.
Yeah,
But LeBron would get past him on the perimeter. But guys like Tim Duncan, like Danny Green and others were ready there to help on him.
yeah.
And like the other guys on the Heat scoring. So that's why I'm saying in that
Even
situation there with the Warriors, like it still wouldn't do it for me.
even regular season matchups, Kawhi Leonard, anytime he faced LeBron, this when LeBron is in his prime, it was never it was usually not 30 plus, but it was still above 20. So it wasn't like he was getting absolutely shut out. He was
Yeah.
containing him to a certain level.
Yeah.
Um, all
All
right,
right, so that was KD trade five. Now number four, the four and five were hard for me. Number four, I'm gonna say like Dr. J, just like you.
Okay.
Again, like I think people don't realize this. It's funny you hate player comparisons and all of that, but at the time when MJ was a young star in the league, people looked at him as saying he's the next Dr. J. Because Dr. J was the first like first person doing those high flying dunks in game that we saw. Because that's when the ABA merged into the NBA, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And
he
like a
he took
Swiss
it.
Army knife, he could do a lot of different
Yeah, he
things.
took basketball up in the air. Um, yeah, but on top of his dunking ability, he had a lot of finesse at the rim, a lot of tricks, the reverse layups, and all of that. Yeah, he was a great defender. So again, he was probably the first or truly great two-way wing player we saw.
One of the most iconic
Yeah,
dunkers in the game. I mean, a lot of people
yeah,
try to do that,
yeah,
the up and under and
yeah.
dunk like that. I mean, I try to imitate it. It's fun.
He was also a great rebounder as well at the small forward spot. But again, like despite what 2K did, he could not shoot.
I know
Oh,
he looked
yeah,
like Steph Curry on me. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
And now number five, this is gonna surprise you. I actually don't as Scotty there.
I
Actually put Tracy McGrady at number five.
hmm,
You see, here's the
I
thing.
considered him a shooting guard.
I understand that. I consider him a small forward, like for this year. I think he plays shooting guard primarily when he was on the Raptors with Vince Carter, I believe. But I think while he was on the Rockets with Yao Ming, I think he was playing small forward then, and he was also what like 6'9", 6'10".
Okay,
So that's why.
I think that's a fair argument. I mean, I would probably take Tracy McGrady over Scottie Pippen. But by the way, side note, Tracy McGrady is my favorite player to use in 2K.
Oh, he's mine too. I think again. Remember when we were talking about how AI, like in the prime, when we were talking in comparison to Kobe. I mean, Kobe paid a lot of like the AI and stuff, but I'm sure even Kobe understand that because AI was so much smaller, like the matchup wasn't necessarily a great. But if you were to, but many interviews, if you talk to Kobe about his matchups back in his days, the first person he brings up is Tracy McGrady. He
Hmm.
said T Mac. He said he was so annoying. He said he could just elevate play no matter how much Kobe himself elevated. T Mac was there with him, like offensively. Kobe said, "This guy, I do something, this guy literally does it back." But the problem is he's 6'9", 6'10", and he's so tall and long.
He
I
is.
mean, man, T Mac he was the first person we saw doing self alley oops in games. He was actually an excellent shooting small forward, and then the legendary how many points was it? Well, 13 points in 35
Oh
seconds
yeah.
to beat the Spurs. Like one of the most clutch performances ever. But I think T Mac he had a lot of back problems, I believe, right?
Um, maybe. I know he had a lot of injury problems. I don't know if
Yeah,
his back's
yeah,
secondary.
he can never stay healthy. And similarly to Kobe, like in the very beginning of his career, he wasn't bad, but he didn't really like explode like some
Right.
rookies do, like LeBron James would. But in his prime, like there were a point where him and Kobe were fighting for the scoring spot. T Mac, he was also a great defender. He was a great passing small forward too. He was a great all around player. But what hurt T Mac really was longevity. Because I mean, how many points per game does he average for his career? I think it's actually like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
But that's because of the injury. Because I think anybody who watches that man play in his prime know he's a much better scorer than that was. I'm sure Kobe would be the first one to tell you, God rest his soul, to throw that stat sheet away.
He was carrying my team, by the way, on the 2000s team. He was like my 11th man because he was a 95 versus a bunch of 99s. But I was able to
Yeah.
just run out there and just throw up a bunch of threes and make almost all of them with him.
And again, while I said I think AI and Kobe were about the same level, but that disparity in defense and stuff in size is what favored Kobe. I think if T Mac had longevity on his side, he very well could have been the one that more people would accept as being like a better than Kobe was. And obviously, rings hurt your legacy as well. But imagine this, it's like the Shaq and Kobe up against T Mac and Tim Duncan.
I mean, Shaq and T Mac were on the same team at one point too, right? On the Magic, weren't they?
No, that was Penny Hardaway.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you're probably right. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah, because remember, Shaq was on the Magic before Kobe was drafted, and T Mac was in the same draft class with Kobe.
Um. Oh yeah, no. T Mac went to Orlando a couple years after Shaq left.
Yeah.
God, would have
Yeah,
been a great duo.
T Mac is a bad man. Any of you who don't what's it called? Or T Mac, I think are crazy for talking about that in comparison to Kobe. Either watch the interview yourself or watch their matchups. Or definitely watch the 13 points in 35 seconds. He was something special.
He was fun to watch. I mean, we only got to watch really the tail end of his career, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, it's crazy to
definition of
think that he
clutch.
played all the way up to 2011, but because he was
Yeah,
he was
but by
injured a
then
lot.
he was just a rotation player by then.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So that's your number five.
Yep.
Now, probably my favorite position to rate was power forward. Um, I think it was one of the easier lists to make. Well, it was tough to get the five that. Well, I knew which five I wanted. I just didn't know which order I wanted.
Hmm.
I think number one was pretty easy for me. This person was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tim Duncan, without a doubt. Uh, fundamentally, uh, game IQ, uh, low key,
Leadership.
yeah, I was gonna say low key leader, phenomenal in every aspect of that game. And anytime I think of a power forward and what they're supposed to do, like I don't expect a power forward to shoot threes. I don't need a power forward necessarily shooting threes. It's great, but like Tim Duncan is like exactly what I think of for a perfect format for a power forward. Great mid range, phenomenal post moves, good leadership,
But
good
that's the funny
rebounder.
thing. And many people say that Tim Duncan's game resemble more of a center, though.
Yeah,
Like
it's
many people say he's a power forward slash center.
see like and like that's another thing. I think of Shaq when I think of a lot of centers.
Yeah,
I don't expect like Jokic is like one of those guys that's like way out there. You don't expect him to be able to do all of that, but like I expect my center to only be taking shots that are right under the rim and getting rebounds and just staying in the
yeah,
key constantly.
yeah.
So Tim Duncan's number one. That's easy for me. Number two was a little bit difficult, but I'm gonna go with Karl Malone. I really liked. I think that he was one of the biggest people to usher into pick and roll, and not only that, he was able to do pick and pop really well, where he was able to pop out into mid range and hit a lot of easy mid range shots. He was probably the first really good mid range power forward shooter. Um,
Hmm.
so I really liked that, and he was always fun to watch. I didn't get to see him obviously because we weren't born yet, but watching his highlights was always a lot of fun. Now, number three and four were a little bit difficult, but number three I'm going to go with Dirk Nowitzki, who was probably my him and Dirk Nowitzki and Tim Duncan were probably the people I looked up to when I first started playing basketball because I was always considered taller than everyone, so I would play power forward or center. And those were the two that I really liked watching because I liked being able to shoot from a certain distance, but also be able to rebound and be in the post. Now Dirk wasn't as great as a rebounder, but what he lacked there he made up for in 3-point shooting and mid range shooting and his one leg fadeaway, which couldn't be guarded.
Such a cheese in 2K.
Literally no one can guard you because you're a foot taller than everyone, and your long arms are literally putting the basketball where absolutely no one can touch it, and while you're on one foot and stepping away and shooting it. So all he had to do was perfect that shot in
Mm.
practice away without anyone in his face, and then he barely even noticed anyone was in his face when he was shooting it. So
He also kind of paved the way for Kevin Durant almost.
yeah, paved the way for Kevin Durant, and
And there's just to stretch bigs generally in the
yeah,
league.
it's a shame too. We don't see a lot of I feel like we're in a day and age where there's not a lot of good power forwards. I mean, Anthony Davis is
Yeah,
like the big one. Like he's absolutely
yeah,
up there. But outside of that, there's a steep drop off.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that we get to an era where we see a lot more gifted power forwards again. But I feel like the problem is we're getting to a point where these guys, well, Giannis too, of course, but he's not as great of a shooter. But we're getting to an age where a lot of these tall power forwards aren't playing power forward. They're playing either point forward, like and slash small forward, but they're not
or
truly playing power forward. So it's kind of diminishing the power forward position.
yeah,
Um, Now, number four, I'm gonna go with Charles Barkley. I was torn between Charles and Dirk at three, but I think Dirk kind of made up for it because he won a ring. I don't think Charles did.
no, he
Charles is
didn't.
very gifted, and I think he had better handling than Dirk, but he was,
It also helped Charles was 6'5".
right. Charles was a small power forward, but he was a gifted power forward where he had a lot of good fundamentals, good post moves. He was able to get
He
in the
was
lane well.
strong.
Right. And that was the thing too. He wouldn't back down from anyone. You see him chuck a basketball at the back of Shaq's head,
Who
eh,
lifts him off his
in
feet.
a game, and he doesn't care. Which, as crazy as it sounds, it's really good at sometimes to have a player that doesn't care. Like he's willing to just put it all out there. Doesn't care if he gets into a fight, breaks his leg or something in a fight. He'll put it all out there. That's the thing. Now five is another person who recently was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm gonna go with Kevin Garnett. Um, Growing up, especially as a Knicks fan, by far one of my least favorite players. But
That's
that
why I
was
love
because he
him.
was very vocal, a phenomenal trash talker in your face, and he's gonna let you know if you sucked, and he's gonna let you know that he's giving you the business. Um, and I love that. I mean, I love hearing the stories too when he when he talked trash to I think it was Michael.
Mellow.
Well, he talked trash to Melo, but who did he talk trash to? I think
I think it was MJ.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it was MJ. Like I forgot who was guarding him, but I guess rookie Kevin Garnett was like, "Hey, you're giving this man like the business right now," and Michael Jordan just couldn't help but start laughing, and then I forgot who it was, but he went up to Kevin Garnett. He was like, "I told you should have shut your damn mouth," because then Michael Jordan destroyed him. But I always liked Kevin Garnett in regard of trash talking. I mean, I hate when it's against me or my team, but I feel like the ability to get in someone's head and be one of those people that's high motor, very vocal, is always helpful to have on your team. So, oh, and I guess we should talk about his actual ability too. He's phenomenal on the post. I have been setting fundamentally sound for most of these guys, but truly he had a bunch of different moves that you would never know until he actually did them. Like he would come up with moves on the spot. I remember there was one where he did a fake pass to absolutely no one in the corner and threw the power forward completely off, or whoever was guarding him completely off, and had a free bucket right in his face. But it's
he he essentially had Tim Duncan's ability, but just to a
yeah,
somewhat lower tier than him.
yeah, great mid-range shooter too. That doesn't
Yeah.
get talked about. But absolutely fun to watch. Oh, and by the way, there was a cool story where Kevin Garnett was asked who were some of the best trash talkers in the NBA, and he said that Tim Duncan is a trash talker that no one talks about because he's very quiet about it. And he said that he would
Yeah.
never say anything nasty, but he said you would go in and miss a shot, and you'd go, "Oh, nice try," and you almost had it, and all these small, kind of
Yeah.
subtle comments. But I thought that was really funny. Um, but yeah, that's my top five. So let's hear it.
Number one, the Tim Duncan. When you've heard me say many times, of all those guys who are in the upper echelon of all-time greats, I think he's the most undervalued, underrated, underappreciated, just because he wasn't as flashy, entertaining to watch as the others. But
Hmm.
he's a lock top 10 all-time great as far as I'm concerned, especially if you're number one all-time at your position, all around player. Like as you said, rebounding, his ability to score the ball is undervalued. He's
Oh,
a
his
19.
passing too. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say right now, I think Jokic is the best passing big ever. But before Jokic, Tim Duncan had the crown. Um, yeah, his post moves, the mid-range shot, especially the bank shot, if free throws, clutch performer. Whether he's taking the shot or making a decision with the ball, even calling out plays sometimes as a big man, into with Doc, with no, not Doc, Greg Popovich. Very coachable,
Yeah.
like led by example. Yeah, and just never let the situation phase him at all. Just always kept his composure.
He
And
this is
defensively, it was insane. And I think people forget there were points in his career where people argue where he was arguably the best player in basketball. Like before Kobe ascended to that conversation, Tim Duncan, because he won a championship before
quietly
him, I
too.
believe. Yeah, I think it was Tim Duncan and Shaq were the ones battling at it for the title of best in the league at some point.
Yeah, he was
Oh
yeah,
yeah, didn't they do co-season MVPs before? Yeah.
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think it was Tim and Shaq.
Um,
I
let me,
think that's the only time it ever happened.
I am going to confirm that. Um,
Oh wait, it was the All-Star game MVP. It was
wait.
co-MVPs between them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing is, this is the one comparison Tim Duncan's gonna get to Draymond Green. Um, he's very similar where he calls out a lot of the shifts on defense and offense and spacing, which doesn't
Mhm.
get talked about because people don't really see that as much. But something that was very much, like I said, floor general. He calls out a lot of things that's happening on the floor for the rest of his team.
And again, like I said about T-Mac before, Tim Duncan may average 19 points per game for his career, but he's a better scorer than that. And I think it doesn't matter the situation. The Spurs system is just a matter of one person not dominating the ball.
Right.
If he were as ball dominant as like some of the other big in the league, like let's say Joel Embiid, for example, if he was as ball dominant as him in the post, Tim Duncan could easily average 25 points per game, despite the fact he was
Yeah.
such a fundamental player.
Probably more.
Because yeah, if you look at him in the playoffs, we see him explode for like 40 plus points per game.
And
Timmy was an incredible player, and he was actually more athletic than people think as well.
here's the crazy thing that no one talks about either. Too. He's had. Let me count real quick. He played from 1997 to 2015. That's almost 20 years. In his worst season, or his least amount of games played in those 18 years was
Mhm.
50 games. He never missed any of the seasons. He played at least 50 games in every season. Most of them were 65, 70 plus. So he never was really injured either. Never
It
got hurt.
actually it actually annoyed me. Like it was actually 2016. That was, well, 2015-16 season. That was the last season when Kobe was doing a farewell tour. In I mean, his defense, the Kobe fan defense, Tim Duncan never announced that he was going to retire
Right.
until like the season was over. But still, Kobe, he took stole the limelight for that. But then out of nowhere, Tim said, "Yeah, I'm wrapping it up too." And it's funny in the different silhouettes we see Kobe when he retired. All the fans bring out the Mamba jerseys and all that. But when Timmy decided to do it low key and walk out, it's funny that picture just him going like
Yeah.
that. I'm done. It's funny. Everyone was thrown off. Said, "Wait, he's gone too."
It was so
I
sad.
think, yeah. Whereas Kobe, where everyone is there cheering and stuff, when Timmy retired, it's like you're almost like soldiers, like in the military, like saying, "Thank you so much for your service."
Yeah,
Like
that was my
it's
final
just
ride,
different,
brothers.
different energy. Yeah.
All right, what's your number two?
All right, number two is at Carl Malone, just like you. Um, I mean, I don't need to repeat anything that you said, but I'm gonna add two more things that you missed. Has the second most points all time in his career. Career average 25 points per game, just like Kobe Bryant. Yeah, he's a great rebounder. Like he averages like 11 plus rebounds per game. People it's funny say that LeBron James he used to get comparisons to Karl Malone because Karl Malone was huge, freakishly strong, but
Right.
really athletic too. And he was actually a really good defender as well.
Yeah, he was a get
So
down and dirty type of guy too. He would dive
yeah,
for a ball, no problem.
again, he's another one of the people whose names get watered down a bit just because coexisted with MJ.
I know he was so good.
Got
Um,
to the finals 2 years back to back against that Bulls team.
I imagine your number three is going to be the same too. Then.
Number three? No. My number three is actually Kevin Garnett.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
fine with that.
Yeah, he's my favorite power forward of all time. And it's funny, like we both agreed before, like you pointed out all his abilities, so I don't need to. He was like a he was, I'm not gonna say poor man, but like a tier down from Tim Duncan
Yeah,
because they were actually pretty similar in terms of their games. But I think what was his sets him apart though is his defense. Like I don't think you did
that's
get
fair.
onto that so much. I think of all the whoever we have in our top five, he might arguably be the greatest defensive power forward ever.
Yeah, he was
Like the way,
fierce.
like Anthony Davis now, what we see from him defensively, Anthony Davis drew a lot of comparisons to Kevin Garnett when he came in the league. He was such an amazing defender. Like he's in the conversation for among the greatest defensive players ever. Um, Oh yeah, that's KG for yeah 3. Number 4 now. Um yeah, number 4 I'll put Dirk. Um as much as it burns me because he put the biggest stain on a certain guy's career that I love so much. But at the same time, I'm not gonna say he did because I'm just gonna say the name LeBron James because LeBron also did it to himself because he just folded away from the moment.
Yeah,
Dirk just did what
a
he
little
had
bit
to
both.
do. Yeah, yeah, Dirk, he was. I mean, he's an amazing scorer. Like as we said, the first stretch big. Like when we talk about guys who changed the game of basketball, I think his name isn't brought up enough because he changed the nature of the big man game because when he came in the league, especially because he was from Europe, like there's always the notion that European players are soft because of like especially their bigs because they shoot the ball a lot. When they brought Dirk in the league, people assume that he is a soft player, but he was not soft at all. Like he does that gifted a shooter, especially from the mid range spot. And he was an underrated post player because just
Yeah, he
even
was.
though he was a phenomenal shooter, he had great footwork in the post. And like he was not intimidated by like guys like Shaq, despite how big and strong they were. He would get inside, score on them. He had a more finesse in the game than you thought, especially when he spin off his right shoulder and go off with his left hand. He
Yeah,
was incredible. As for rebounding for a 7 footer, obviously he was not the best rebounder, but he wasn't terrible. He was average at best. He averaged like 9 rebounds a game.
right.
Not terrible. I think the biggest flaw in this game was defensively.
Yeah, because he was
Like
just
he
very
could,
slow.
yeah, he was very slow and he just was not a good shot blocker or any of that. But the way he spaced out the floor offensively, it's incredible. I think he was an underrated passer too, as a big, because he was a good passer.
Good mentor
Um,
too.
yeah, and yeah, again another clutch performer as well.
Oh,
Um, and now number 5, yeah, I guess yeah, I just have to put Barkley there.
yeah, it's tough. I forgot who else I had on the list. I mean, there was Elgin Baylor again is
But
listed as a power forward, but
yeah,
he's
I
very
thought most people put him as small forward though.
um yeah. I don't. I That's what I thought. I was like, I don't think there's anyone else I could really put ahead. I
Yeah,
mean, you had guys like Kevin McHale, which I didn't think was better.
funny. Stephen A. Smith actually has him at number 2.
Kevin McHale.
Yeah, all
I
time.
mean, he's a great player. I
Yeah,
just don't think he's number
yeah.
two. Dennis Rodman's on that list. Chris Webber. I mean,
Oh yeah.
but like again, Dennis Rodman was very much sole rebounding. Not. I mean, he was a
In
decent scorer.
defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing, yeah, I think is the way we have to look at this too is all the guys that we named, they've been in positions that's the number one options on their team. I don't think Dennis Rodman could ever his stuff. He could never be a
No.
number one option.
No. All right. Well, on to the centers, the big guys. Um,
Yeah, this one's going to be an interesting one. I think
yeah, I think there's a lot of them that are difficult to rate here. So I'll start with number one. I'm going with Kareem. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Number one scorer all time. The got the jump hook, created a whole new shot, and
the
something that was
sky
impossible
hook,
to impossible to defend. I mean, there's not much for me to really say. Will Chamberlain's number two, Mister. What was it? 108 points in a game.
100 points.
Yeah, something ridiculous. Great player. Never got to see him play truly. I mean, small clips that you could barely see anything on the screen, but all the stories I heard definitely leads, and the amount of rule changes that were made around him makes that a pretty easy pick. Now, number three is a little bit controversial because I feel like a lot of people have Bill Russell here, but I'm going to go with Shaquille O'Neal because I feel like he was very dominant and he exemplifies what a center is expected to be. You expect him to be a big mass in the middle. He was, very heavy, like 300 pounds tall, and he was impossible to move. And if you look at his scoring, which I'm sure if they showed like his chart, his shooting chart all time, almost everything's in the key, but it was like he never would really miss because you couldn't stop him. He would just plow right over you and dunk on you, no matter what. So I always loved that. Great rebounder too. Uh, Terrible free throw shooter. It's fine, but it didn't really matter. He was very good at what he needed to get done. Now for Bill Russell, uh, I put Bill Russell at four because at his height, and I know what he did back in his past, so I'm measuring it too from what he did against his opponents, but I also think about today's opponents, and I don't necessarily think he would be as successful against guys like Shaquille O'Neal or even I won't say Jokic, but maybe Embiid too. Like I don't know if he would measure up as well. Um, and then number five, I am going to go with probably the most offensively sound person in the post in NBA history, and go with Keem Olajuwon with probably the best post moves in the game. And that's it.
His named the Dream for a reason. If you have, I mean, if you move down low, it's called the Dream Shake. I
Yeah,
mean, what did that tell you? Surprisingly, I think, yeah, I think we do have the same five, but the order is a bit scrambled. All right, so for me, number one is actually Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain,
okay, I'm
and
good with that.
and yeah, and I don't need to repeat any of what you said, but you did. I do have to correct one thing. You said nobody can stop Kareem Skyhook. Wilt was the only one to do it. He actually blocked it.
I actually
Yeah,
seen that clip, and that is one of
yeah.
my favorite clips.
But give context. I'll give context. So Wilt was like 7'1", 7'2", so standing at the same height as Kareem.
Right.
But Wilt had that height, but Michael Jordan's vertical, a
I know he could
48-inch
get up
vertical
there.
at that height, and he was fast. And again, and I'm just gonna throw this in there. If you want to look at the NBA history, like whatever records are in there, Wilt Chamberlain has like 70% of those records. Like he was that guy back then. He, even though we don't like, just solely evaluate players by stats, but if he said, you know what, I wanted to get this number, he actually could
Yeah,
back it up and just go and do it.
100%.
And he went a season averaging 50 points per game and multiple seasons averaging 40 plus. Wilt is still number one for me. Number two, yeah, of course, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Um, Now, unlike Wilt didn't win that much, but he faced Bill Russell, and they were the Golden State Warriors back then, so that's why he only has two rings. But with Kareem, again, phenomenal longevity. It's his biggest asset, among the
Even
greatest
now, he
scorers of
looks
all
good
time.
for his age.
Yeah, among the greatest scorers all time. Um, All-time leading career points. Um, but he was an all-around player. Like in addition to his scoring ability, Skyhook, he could score in the post. Great rebounder. He was a pretty good passing big man as well. He could defend well in the post. Um, how many how many rings does he have? Is this five rings? I think he has five. Um, yeah, multiple season MVPs, final MVP. Um, two franchises, the Lakers and the Bucks. So I don't have much else to say about the Cap
He's
because
got
just
six
like
rings.
six, yeah, he just doesn't have six Finals MVPs, but he said just like Will Chamberlain, like he was before our time, so it's hard to like speak too much
Of
about it because
course.
we didn't see it
Yeah.
happen. Um, so that's two. Number three for me, we've gotten bickered about this before, but three for me is Hakeem the Dream Elijah Wan. I think of all of the all-time great centers, he's underrated among them
He
in
is
this
underrated.
regard. Because if we talk about great centers, like whether people know basketball or not, you'll always the two names that you'll hear are Shaq and Kareem. Those are the first two. But Hakeem, his name isn't there as much because again, the Jordan era. But people forget this: he won two back-to-back finals. He's 2-0 in the NBA finals. But again, that and it's funny. It's a double-edged sword. It gets drowned out and watered down because that's when MJ stepped away for the game of basketball.
Right.
Even though that's when the NBA was actually level, but I guess people had a problem with
Yep.
that. um, but yeah, again, he put on one of the greatest individual NBA Finals performances ever. I'm not sure if it was the first go round or second. I know the first go round. Wait, who was the first one against? I know one of them was against Shaq and Orlando, and one was against the Knicks with Patrick Ewing. But I know, he was also the only player ever to put up a quadruple double. So that's insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you even
Actually,
say that.
actually one game it could have been two. There was one game where he had it, but then they took one of his steals away. I don't know. I don't remember what happened. They might have called a foul or something. But yeah, that's insane. As Evan said, best player in the post ever offensively. So that's phenomenal. He could also shoot at the mid range. Um, but where I think he's really special is defensively. I think he's a one defensive player year before multiple all NBA defensive. I think he might be the best defensive center of all time as well. Um, I mean, the argument against that would probably be Bill Russell,
I think
but I think he's a better defender than Matumbo was.
I think it's weird. Like out of all the top fives we've done, this
Hmm.
list specifically, because we all have pretty much had the same five. I
Yeah,
think this is the one list where we could say all of them were phenomenal defenders too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, all of them are phenomenal, but if I were to pick one and say a pure true
Hakeem,
lockdown defender, it would be Hakeem, and the other one would probably be Bill Russell.
that's fair.
Yeah, all right. So Hakeem the dream for me, and then number four. Oh, I'm also gonna say this. I think Hakeem is the most pure skilled center ever. But four, of course, Shaquille O'Neal. Um, Now, I'd be part of it. I have the one to hit it. One of Hakeem's rings was in beating Shaq in the finals, and I think he ended the game in pulling a three up in Shaq's face too, dribbling the ball down and pulling it on him. But even Shaq himself, when he talked about all-time great centers, he said he always speaks highly of Hakeem Olajuwon. Shaq himself, he said he was the one big man he went up against. He said he just didn't give a damn about his size, strength, or anything that he tried to say to him. He said that he was a nightmare to guard. But and of course Shaq, I mean, again, just dominant. Like not much else to say there. He was actually the second coming of Wilt Chamberlain because Shaq's dominance we was actually seen before in the NBA from Wilt Chamberlain. But I think why Shaq gets a bit more credit for it is because in Shaq's era, he was playing in an era with more 7 footers around, so it kind of carries a more
Yeah,
weight. But Shaq was also heavier than Chamberlain. But in terms of strength, they actually say Wilt was stronger. I think Wilt's max bench press was like 50
I
pounds more than Shaq's.
I think the big reason that Shaq gets more credit for power is even if Wilt was stronger, Wilt
Yeah.
was very fundamental, but Shaq was very much play with anger. I'm going to body you every chance I get, and I'm going to be angry at you no matter
Yeah.
what to try to run you over like a freight train.
And breaking the backboards too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he took
so he
everything out on the rim.
Shaq changed the game. He changed the material of our rims. Yeah, thank you, Shaq. I guess
Yeah,
I'm glad you never hurt yourself in the process.
yeah, I know he's had so many close calls.
All right, and then number five, yeah, Bill Russell. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say this because unlike what people like to say about MJ, because it's not true. Bill Russell, if you want to look at rings and say who's the greatest winner in NBA history, or maybe the greatest winner in all of sports, Bill Russell, he doesn't have enough fingers to wear all of his rings.
Yep.
So
I I like uh I like when they did the Hall of Fame induction with I think it was Shaq at the time, and he pointed at all the centers on the screen stand next to him.
yeah,
I would have kicked all of your asses.
yeah. Oh no, it was during the NBA awards
Yeah.
ceremony. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's it. That's our top
Uh,
fives.
all right. We
I'm surprised
are
we didn't bicker as much.
we are at the hour and 10-minute mark. Did you want to move to another topic, or do you think that we should end it here?
I think we should get to the Philly topic just because we brought
Just
it up at the
yeah.
start.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'll let you go first.
my the big argument that I had, I'll read the tweet for everybody because the tweet got a lot of attention. For anyone who didn't know, Pro City Hoops, which is a Twitter account for basketball, posted this thing, essentially, and it was a news clip of a dumpster going down the river, in Philadelphia after the flooding from the remnants of Hurricane Ida. Now, the reason that this is important is the news site, which was Fox News Philly, went on and said Ben Simmons was out in a hurry to leave Philadelphia. So this triggered a response from me. I replied to the tweet and I simply said, "This man has had confidence issues, and over 1 million of the Philly fans have no issue roasting him, making and along with the media making news reports about a 25-year-old with low confidence. Now he wants out, and everyone's surprised, and I don't really get it." So that was my tweet. Now, before I get rebutted here by my Philadelphian friend over here, I just want to point out that the biggest thing a lot of the Philadelphia fans have been arguing with is we've stuck with him for the last 4 years. I don't know what you're talking about. We've always supported him. It's the other fan bases that always roasted him. Um, I agree with that. I understand. Most fan bases are very quick to go and hate on another player when it's not on their team. My and I understand that Philadelphia was very supporting. Um, my thing is I feel like no matter what, you gotta come down and you gotta support your player no matter how bad he plays. So you could throw shade and you could throw blame, but I feel like there was a lot of hate. Yeah, I was watching a couple of reaction videos of interviews of all the fans walking out of Game Seven, being asked about Ben Simmons, and it was all "F Ben Simmons," everything under the sun. Very very bad and ugly comments. And not on there, but there were a couple death threats from social media even. Um, I just want to first say I know it's not every Philadelphia fan that takes it to this extra step. I think that's important to understand. I just My biggest thing is if Ben Simmons is to stay, I feel like if Philadelphia all just crumbled down on him in Game Seven after Game Seven, whether it's right or wrong, my thing is he has confidence issues, and that all happening is probably killing his confidence even more and going to drive him straight out of the city. And unfortunately, after a performance like that, his trade value is going to be very low. So I think that not only is he being driven out of the city by force, because now he's requesting a trade too, but his trade value has already been killed. So you can't even have another year with him where you might go and average 20 points a game if he figures it out with high confidence and peak his trade value. Now the trade value is gone and he has no confidence. So I feel like that's a big thing that's not being understood. Um, and then the other thing comes down to, well, he's privileged. He's got a $177 million contract. How dare him steal the money from the city? Understand the Philadelphia organization offered him that too. And they said they were going to fix all parts of his game. I understand that's on him too to work on it, but there's also issues from the organization, and there's also issues that were arising during Game 7. Embiid turned over the ball 5 times in the final quarter. He showed out. I get it. He scored 30-plus points. But that series was still winnable no matter how bad Ben Simmons was playing. So those 5 turnovers helped kill it. Seth Curry being burned by Trae Young and having to be benched for being a defensive liability was a problem. And Tobias Harris, who is an all-star that we don't really talk about much, was shooting 30% in half of the games. So I have no problem putting blame on Ben Simmons. I know he's got low confidence, but I have a problem throwing every part of the blame on him. And I think that's what a lot of the city's doing. Um, I think that the city of Philadelphia has supported him the last 4 years, but I think this year it did a complete 180, and almost everybody in the city absolutely hates him. So I think that is part of the reason why he wants out. And I know you're not surprised, but I'm very surprised that a lot of Philly fans are surprised that he wants to leave. I think it's pretty evident why he wants to leave. Um, the tweet got a lot of reactions though. There was a lot of likes because a lot of people agreed, but there was a lot of arguing too with people who disagreed and said how loyal that they were to Ben Simmons. I get it. It's just now 30 NBA teams, 30 NBA teams fans hate him instead of 29, or flame him. But now he's going to go to another organization, and a lot of those fans might react negatively. But I think that he's going to be pretty widely supported in going into this developmental process and trying to build him back up again. But that's pretty much all I have to say to kind of begin where I'm at.
Well, all right. Now that I'm hearing this, I understand your position a bit better. I think some of there are a little like texting
I know.
battle.
It was a
I
little bit,
think
yeah.
you
It
I
wasn't
think you
described well.
I think you went back and also reconsidered some things and like tweaked it as well. Because I will say this, my initial like reaction to it that I had a big problem with is that when you had initially said that Philadelphia fans are disrespectful and like he has confidence issue and you guys have been like flaming him and stuff
It was a
over the
broad
years and
statement.
stuff.
Yeah, it was a broad
Yeah,
statement.
over years like that's I mean, I was like, no, 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 that's false. Because like, and I'm going to defend them because me myself,
Yeah,
I've defended Ben Simmons so much since the rookie year. Kept being optimistic that he'll get better and stuff. He even got a shooting therapist at some
right.
point. But I don't know if you recall, I always go back to this, and I hated this so much. But I blame more so Brett Brown for this. After his rookie year, when we saw his lack of ability to shoot and the lack of willingness to shoot, how much it hurt the Sixers in their first playoff run after the first year, that Brett Brown tells the media, yeah, don't worry. We're gonna develop him, his game, and improve his shooting and stuff. And Ben Simmons followed up with like a tweet or something in the media, like not too many days later, saying, "Oh, y'all think I was gonna shoot? Guess what? Y'all can keep talk all you want. I'm still not shooting the next year." I'm like, you're a rookie and you're being that ignorant out there. So in a way, you're refusing to make your team
Yeah,
better. So, um, but for me personally, and other Sixers fan over the years we've Simmons been getting roasted for lack of ability to shoot. Maybe people think overrated. We've defended him to death many times because like may people, which is true, he has not grown at all since his rookie year, which is our biggest problem. Defensively, yeah, it improved, and like me myself and many Philly fans this year said he deserved to get Defensive Player of the Year, and we acknowledge like those contributions, but I don't know if anyone mentioned this in your comments, Ev. I don't know if you realize this, but the moment there was like it wasn't even just this series in particular, Ev. Like looking back, they're gonna say the series that set them over
I
the
know the
edge.
exact moment you're gonna say
The moment he passed up a
when he
dunk
was right under
6'10"
the rim.
under the rim,
Yeah,
that that was the last straw. So I think they're completely justified in saying we defended you so much. You had such a big contract. We support you so much, but you're not getting any better. Not only first of all, you having such a large contract is gonna limit like what we can bring on to the team to the salary cap. But in addition, you're getting all of that, but not producing in the playoff. You have not shown any improvement. And if one thing for you just not being able to shoot and being limited, but to be 100,000% just useless on the floor, like even in the Washington series, like you useless there too. And now this is a criticism for Doc, many including you, and I have said in the closing moments, put Ben Simmons on the bench
yeah,
because then your offense is stronger. And like, and I agree. You remember my rant on the Sixers that I didn't just flame Simmons. I saved him for last because I think I no, I don't think I flamed him more than anybody. I think I flamed Embiid more so because I already had a low expectation for Simmons because I
right.
know what he's gonna bring. But I think he just built a frustration just because Ben Simmons, like even though we said we don't know if he's definitely the second player on the team or not, he widely around the league after Embiid, the second name that everyone thinks of Ben Simmons. You're supposed to be the second most best well-rounded player on the team, and even though you can't shoot, your playmaking is not impactful at all for us in the playoffs. Like your whole game is just practically non-existent. Your defense isn't even stellar. The playoffs, like you're literally useless out there. Like you're not even looking like a borderline all-star. And it's been 4 years now. And it's not like it's your first time in the playoffs. Like you've been in the playoff situation more than once, but you're not showing any growth. So at this point, you're just holding the team back. So that's why I'm in 100% support of Philly, like trading him. And so the death threat, that's all unacceptable. That's a different story. But honestly, but the whole confidence issues and stuff, honestly, I personally, I don't want to hear any of that, because if you have the confidence to go to the media at what your rookie year, first of all, if I were a rookie, like if we were rookies, how old would we have been? We would have been like what, 18,
It
18,
changes for everyone.
19
Yeah.
ish. Yeah, 18, 19 ish, but he's a bit older than us, maybe a year or two. Let's say he was 2021 as a rookie, and you had no problem going to the media, like just being blatantly ignorant. And I don't want to hear anything about confidence issues now.
I
Like his lack of confidence is in is in shooting the ball. That's it. So he definitely does need to go. And now, but now in terms of him like actually wanting out from Philly, yeah, any Philly fan who's surprised by that, first of all, they're just idiots at this point. If we're running him out of the city, he doesn't feel welcome. Why would he want to come back? But I'm glad he's on the same page. I'm glad he wants out
right.
too. That just shows he's definitely gonna be gone sooner rather than later for me.
I
And yeah, we're not gonna miss you.
I think I think mutually I think it's fair to mutually understand that both don't want to be together. The fans
Yeah.
included, and Ben Simmons. I think that's reasonable. Like I said, I think it's not reasonable when, well, even for Ben Simmons, I think it's unreasonable for him to not understand why the city doesn't want him, and I don't think it's reasonable for the fans to not understand why he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah,
Um,
and not just that, we also need to bring up, let's be real. I think Joel Embiid and the team, especially Joel Embiid, I think he's had his last straw with Simmons, because he
yeah,
probably feels like this guy's not helping me. Because remember, when Simmons first initially got criticized for lack of ability to shoot and stuff, Joel Embiid used to defend Ben Simmons to death to the media
yeah.
and stuff, and used to coddle him.
Here's my other thing though. The confidence issues. I feel like when you first come out of the college, it's very easy to be confident because well. First off, let's talk about the college scene in general. You're made to be confident there. Everything's you're especially when you're considered the number one prospect. Everyone's going to treat you like a king in college, right? So
Yeah.
you're considered the top of the line. Now you go into the NBA and you get all these LeBron James comparisons as the number
Hmm.
one pick. So
Yeah.
now you're going into your rookie year and you're being compared to LeBron James. So any comment that's going against you is very much not understanding, I'm sure, to you, because you're like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be the king of the rookie class. How's that? How is that true? I'm playing my own game. I'm going to do my own thing. So I think it is a little bit of a
That was overconfidence then.
yes, overconfidence. But now I think that each year he's been slowly dropping off more and more in confidence to where I think right now we're at an all-time low. So
Yeah, he's only gotten worse every year. Like he hasn't, but even in the
right,
regular season, playoffs aside, even in regular season, he has not shown
but
growth at all.
I also want to put a fair amount of blame on Doc Rivers, though, and that's not for necessarily benching him. And this goes for Brett Brown too. But like when you look at other guys, like let's say Monty Williams is a really good example. I think Nate McMillan would probably be up there too, but Monty Williams especially. Monty Williams is going to find exactly your strength. So let's say it's going to be defense and distribution, right? He's going to tell you, hey, you don't have to shoot the ball. You know, if you're wide open, obviously in the key, you should shoot the ball. I'm sure he would say that. But he's like, listen, I don't need you to shoot the ball. Go and get 15 to 20 assists a game. I think he would understand that. Solely be distribution. Be like Lonzo Ball was in his first few
Yeah.
years.
No,
Roll
hold on.
yourself back a bit.
I got a chip right there though. Doc was doing that for him all season long. That's why Philly looked so dominant. Simmons was shooting the ball less than he has in the past. He was
Yeah,
essentially making him play the same role that Rondo did for his Celtics team.
right. But I think that they tried to digress from that in the playoffs. And sure, there were shots that Ben Simmons should have taken. But
I don't think that was the case.
I think that another thing that's not being addressed is when you have low confidence as it is, when you exit a series and someone asks you, is Ben Simmons a NBA Finals point guard? Now, let's be real. This is Probably not is should be your real answer. But whether it's NFL, NBA, any sport, if someone asks you, "Do you think so and so is of championship caliber?" and you're the coach, as a leader, you should always say yes. It could be a complete lie. Do you think this quarterback is capable of winning a Super Bowl? Absolutely. You're going to say yes. But now not only did you tell all the NBA that you think your own point guard is not capable of reaching the NBA Finals, but you also killed your point guard's confidence, and now your coach, knowing that your coach doesn't believe in you. So I think that's a problem. I think that was mishandled. I think that's just Doc being a very veteran presence in the media, where he just thinks that he can say what he wants. But I think that was something that kind of altered Ben Simmons and Doc Rivers' relationship going forward, and a big reason that Ben Simmons might not be talking to the organization at all. Embiid was a little
Yeah,
bit better. Embiid was still somewhat defending. I think he threw a couple subtle comments out there that were kind of shots towards Ben Simmons, but it wasn't as bad. In
yeah,
the only in the playoff in the most recent
yeah.
interview, nothing
I,
crazy.
I will say that I understand where you're coming from like a coaching perspective. The only reason why I'll agree with you, I'm all kind of indifferent about
Right,
it, but why I see your side in this situation is because Doc is the new coach on the
right,
team. So, like, what are you going to be fed up with? I think it's also Doc will probably frustrated because he hear the narrative out there. Doc blew another 3-1 lead
right.
and all of that. But for Embiid now, because it was hilarious actually on Undisputed, listen to Skip, what's it called, Go All saying, I cannot believe Joel Embiid and the Docker just threw Ben Simmons under the bus, yada, yada, yada. I'm actually upset that I know he's not going to do it, but I really wish Joel Embiid would go on a full-on rant on Ben Simmons to the media because Embiid was there with Simmons from day one and had protected his little brother from the media for years. But at this point, this guy's just not helping me.
I
So he has, if anything, if anyone on that team has the right to bash Ben Simmons, is Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and I think like we've talked about this before. A lot of people do well with negative reinforcement, like Kobe Bryant, let's say, or Michael Jordan when they're screaming at you in
Yeah,
practice. Where
yeah,
a lot of people do better being coddled, which was like Scottie Pippen's mentality of leadership. He wants to treat
yeah,
you like a king and try to always lift you up, and that's kind of what Embiid took towards Ben Simmons. He always tried to lift Ben Simmons up, and
yeah.
normally I think that's what's better. I don't think he's good at taking the hard route. The problem is I feel like Ben Simmons feels so highly about himself, which is
Yeah, that's a problem. He's so ignorant. He's
so
stubborn.
like I feel like while Embiid is a better player, I feel like you needed a guy who is maybe not as similar in age because like Embiid's very young too. Well, they're very similar age. I think
Yeah.
what one's 25,
Mm.
one's 27. I know Embiid's
That's
not 30
I
yet.
think yeah, I think MB's 28.
But like if you had a guy like Kobe Bryant, who let's say was way older than you, or I think Jimmy Butler's a really good example too, and it's a shame that he
Yeah.
left the city. I think Jimmy Butler would have had a really big impact on Ben Simmons, whether it be
I, I don't think so. I think he would have been just as miserable or even more miserable than Cat was.
well. Here's the thing. I think Cat is soft, but
Simmons is stubborn.
Simmons is stubborn. But I think that Jimmy Butler is one of those people where he would pull him aside and be like, "Look, man, I've been easy on you for a while, but you need to understand, like, this isn't working. You got to do this or this." I don't think Embiid's willing to do that because he's afraid that he's going to lose his relationship with Simmons, which is fair because takes a lot of stuff personally. But
I,
I think Butler's one of those people where could have went in there and could have had a legitimate conversation. Would have been like, "Listen, this isn't working. You got to figure this out. I'll help you. I could take you aside. We could do some personal training together, and we could try to figure some things out." And I think that would have went better. But I don't think Embiid's that type of guy because I think Embiid's afraid that he's treading on eggshells. Doesn't want to hurt his feelings, and I think I understand Embiid's perspective too because like the way Ben Simmons has been reacting to a lot of this stuff, you would say it's hard to talk to the man because you don't know how he's going to take things. So without a doubt, though, Ben Simmons is going to need a new change of scenery. But I also want to throw some blame on not necessarily the fans, but the organization because I feel like outside of the Sixers organization and fans, a lot of the NBA fans and players, after watching their first year of Simmons, they thought Simmons was good, but I don't think anyone ever thought he was going to be like amazing. And And that's not necessarily what Philadelphia was doing, but Philadelphia.
That's not true. Well, prior to the playoff, from what you were doing in the regular season, a lot of people saw Simmons was going to be amazing.
Uh, Here's the thing: when I saw Simmons come out, I'm a big LSU fan too. He came from LSU. I was like, he's going to be great, right? After the first year or two, I said I to myself, it was he's going to be good, but he's going to be above average player. But that, like, above average, but I would say star to slightly understar, like, but above average still. I didn't think I would watch him. I didn't think like that there was going to take this massive increase in skill, and that's not the fans' fault or anything. But the second the organization goes and pays him the max contract, it's okay. Now you value him as a superstar. He's now your superstar. You have to treat him like a superstar. And now all the expectations just skyrocketed. So that also pisses off the fans because now you paid him the max money. So now all the fans are like, well, he's getting paid max money for his performance. But the thing is, he never should have gotten that max contract. He was
Yeah.
never playing to that expectation. But now that he got paid that contract, now all the fans are going to treat him like he got that contract and that he was given that money. Um,
I think the thing is the fans outside of the Sixers organization also they called the spade before we did because like we knew we had him for so long, so we stayed optimistic. But everyone
right.
else after that first year said Ben Simmons is just completely useless in the playoffs. Like
And
I've been told that many times.
like I've had conversations with you. I mean I always made jokes. I said, oh, this is what, year three? I was like, here we go again. Everyone's going to talk about how great Simmons is, and then Embiid's going to get hurt halfway through the year, and you guys are going to get eliminated in the first round. And honestly, that was the blueprint until this year. Embiid got to play through.
Second round, it was always the second round they
But
kept
either
getting
way,
out.
Embiid played through the injury this time. And
Yeah,
but my point was being Simmons is going to be put into this really high rated echelon, and or Simmons was, and then Embiid, who I think is an S tier player, like top tier, is going to be thrown into a situation where he's assumed to have, two All Stars around him when truly he is the only real top tier
yeah,
player on that team. So I feel
yeah,
like I feel like it was unfair expectations for Simmons from the organization, which resulted in unfair expectations from the fan base because the organization treated him like a superstar. And then I think that it was unfair expectations for Embiid because he was basically under the impression that he has a big three with, like, if we wanted to throw
yeah.
Tobias Harris in there, when
Yeah.
truly he's the only real top tier superstar on that team. So
Yep.
it was difficult. I think that the organization kind of skyrocketed this unfair expectations for all of the parties involved, whether it be the
I
fan base, Simmons, and Embiid.
I think Embiid. I feel so bad for him because let's be
Right.
real. Because even after the first year, people point out, "Oh yeah, Ben Simmons can't shoot," but everyone points to Embiid like the way he melts down in the four quarters and stuff. Even
And
I
his
said
injuries.
I get pissed off. Well, he don't think get flamed for his injuries,
Yeah.
but it's for like his play in the playoff. Like it goes down, especially in 2018 with the stomach aches and all of
Yeah.
that. And he's the one that everyone around the world, like the media have clowned and like antagonizes Simmons. They just said they just say Simmons, like he's just pretty much like irrelevant to
Yeah.
them in a sense. But Ben Simmons's liabilities on the court, they impact Embiid's performances so much because if you're playing 4-on-5 basketball, Embiid always has two bodies on him down low at least.
Here's the thing. I don't mind. I think we're gonna see it too. I think Simmons is gonna go to a team that values distribution, and I think that team's gonna tell him you don't need to shoot 10 shots a game. Go ahead and shoot. But they're gonna ask him, please don't shoot one or two shots. If you have an open shot, please take it. You could shoot 5 to 7 shots a game. We won't care. We care about your distribution. It's like you said, when we're playing 4-on-5 basketball, it's not what he's directly doing on the court. It's when he's getting the ball and there's no one around him. It's like now everyone knows you're not going to shoot it no matter what happens. You could
Yeah,
be completely alone and you're not going to shoot it. That's the problem. You know,
yeah.
if you don't want to shoot shots in people's faces or if you don't want to shoot in a slightly tight scenario, fine. Pass it away or call a pick and roll. I don't care. But the thing is, when you take that threat completely away of a wide open shot, you're right. Then they're going to instantly go and double Joel Embiid, and your Simmons is going to be standing in the open court, and everyone else is going to be guarded, and he's going to have to make a decision. So I think once people start helping him gain the confidence to go and drive, or at least just slightly work on the mid-range shot, for the love of God. I don't even
Yeah.
care if you don't take threes. I don't even care if you take them, if you won't take shots 5 feet in front of the 3-point line. I am just asking you to work shots in the key. It could be
Yeah.
on the block. It could be at the elbow. I don't care. Just at least be willing to attempt them. Because like even if I'm on the NBA court and I am not an NBA player by any means, if I'm wide open at the elbow, I'm gonna shoot it.
I'm shooting it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm,
Like
I'm shooting it.
I
Like
don't care if it's an air ball. I'm shooting.
right, and Simmons, the thing is he doesn't give himself enough credit. He's capable of making the shot. I mean, I'm sure as a Sixers fan, you've seen him drain threes in practice. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying he's a great 3-point shooter or anything, but you know he's capable of it. It's just this whole mental health ordeal comes into play when he's on the court in a live game, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something that like a therapist or something could fix, or something that could be broken down into helping gain his confidence. But you have to. I mean, there's got to be at least if you're going to be a starting basketball player, at least as a starter. I won't even call you an all-star. If you're at least going to be a starting basketball player, I mean, the very bottom of the league in starters. Like let's say, well, like this year, Frank Campazzo, the point guard for the Nuggets, not even a bad player, but we all know if he's wide open, he's going to take a shot,
Yeah.
and he's nowhere near considered to be the best on the team. It's just understand as a starter, you have to be willing to shoot. Lonzo Ball doesn't like shooting either. You can work on distribution, get 20 assists a game, and shoot 5 shots, and maybe you have 6 or 7 points, but you have 20 assists. That's fine. It's just
But
be
that's
willing
but
to
that's
shoot.
But that's a problem. Like in his nature, Simmons is a playmaker. That's
Right.
what he is. But because he's not even being guarded, he can't even find a guy to pass to if everyone is covered either. That's the problem. And the whole driving to the basket thing. First of all, before his whole passing up a dunk, like I don't. Nobody can instill confidence in that. I don't know what the hell that was because the narrative has been shooting because everybody knew he can drive to the rim. That had been a problem thing in defense that they just say, all right, we're not gonna play at the rim. He's not if he's not getting inside, he's useless. Because like if there is a lane that he has a wide open drive to the basket, I don't think there's anyone that put pressure on it. Everyone's confident he can finish at the
Yeah.
rim.
It it's a shame because I went and I just for reference I went to go into 2K and I used Ben Simmons, and
Hmm.
I was like you can find success without him shooting a ton of shots, right?
Yeah,
So I went I got 22 assists in my game as Ben Simmons, and
yeah,
he had 7 or 8 points because it started getting to, and I was pick and rolling a lot with Embiid and even Tobias Harris every once in a while, and it was all right. Now these guys are starting to get tighter on Embiid or Tobias Harris, and then I took it to the rim. I was completely alone. That's the thing. He's just got to be willing to take it to the rim. I mean, sure, you're going to get flamed if you miss a layup, but at least attempt a shot because everyone's going to flame you even more if you're sitting there under the rim alone and you just throw it out to a 3-point line. Like, that's aggravating.
yeah. But the thing is with Simmons, we've seen the moments in the play. Like I think of like
Where
them
he's
playing against the
capable.
Brooklyn in the Brooklyn Nets. You know when he does, it's like when he get like if some other player calls him out, like the Jared Dudley thing with the Brooklyn Nets. When Jared Dudley said, "Oh, Simmons is easy to guard. You just don't have to guard him outside. He's good in transition, but in the half court he's useless." And then Simmons goes out and scores 30 something points because he was slashing them at the
Yeah.
rim so much. Or when he gets aggravated, he'll do it.
Yeah, and the thing I don't like are all these comments from Sixers fans where it's like, get in a freaking gym. Like you're an idiot. How are you not good at this stuff? No, I don't think that's the issue. I mean, sure, his shooting isn't top tier, but it's all mental stuff right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure as an NBA player he is going to the gym. It's just I think that there's a reason he's not shooting it, and there's a reason he's not going driving to the rim, and that's straight up mental and
Yeah.
confidence.
Yep. And as far as I'm concerned, he's a lost cause now. I don't think that there's any fixing that.
I don't think he's a lost cause yet. He's a lost cause with Philadelphia, but he is a
Yeah.
loss. He's not a lost cause on a new team. It just depends on what team that is. He
Yeah, that's
needs.
what I'm saying. If he's on the team like the Golden State Warriors, where they had the best shooters ever, that's going to be the best situation for him.
I feel like a really good spot for him to be in, and this is a weird destination, but Minnesota Timberwolves. It's a small city. You're not going to get a lot of hate off the rip. B, you're not going to be forced to be the focal point, which he wasn't necessarily in Philadelphia, but he got a lot more attention because it's a big city. You now have Cat, and then you have Anthony Edwards, who started averaging 20 plus a game. So you have probably most likely a star player coming in the midst of you. So like you have Anthony Edwards, who's going to be hopefully a star in the next few years, who you're going to be able to distribute to perfectly fine. You're going to have Cat, who's pretty good on a pick and roll, and then you're also going to have D'Angelo Russell, who is semi a point guard too, but easily can be slid to a shooting guard because he's a great shooter and he's not really doesn't really need to dribble the ball that much. So you have a shooter in D'Angelo Russell, you have Anthony Edwards, who's great mid range and can do a lot of different things, and then you have Cat down low. So all you need to do is distribute. That's all you need to do. You need to distribute and play defense. Sure, you should be taking a couple shots a game, but that is a spot where he wouldn't need to do too much. Like Sacramento, absolutely not, because you have De'Aaron Fox. Sure, that'll be nice, but now you're going to be probably the one who should have to bring up the ball. De'Aaron Fox is going to be your primary scorer. Buddy Hield's probably going to be gone because of the trade. So now you have what? You have Marvin Bagley and De'Aaron Fox. You're going to have to do a lot of lifting for that team to score. Whereas Anthony Edwards, Cat, and D'Angelo Russell can do the majority of the scoring for you in Minnesota.
I think the Golden State Warriors, Steph and Clay.
It's just they want James Wiseman and like 4 first-round picks for Ben Simmons.
I'm just saying for Simmons in particular, that would be the best situation he could be in.
Yes and no. I feel like California is very loving of their players. Like I don't think he would get a lot of hate there. But
he's not gonna have the expectation
I
that
was gonna
Steph
say
and
he's gonna
Clay
have
would.
zero expectations. Exactly.
He's gonna play the role that Draymond plays essentially.
And he can guard the
Going
small
forward,
forward. Yeah, I was gonna say he can
he
guard
could
the small
guard one.
forward.
He can guard 1 to 5.
But like that's what I mean though. Like his height will let him guard the small forward, while Steph and Clay could guard point guard and shooting guard. So like
Yeah, and his rebounding.
it's it's tough. I don't know where Ben Simmons is gonna go. I don't think the Atlanta Hawks would be a bad spot either because you have John Collins, you have Trae Young, and you have Bogdanovich too. You have good shooters, um, plenty of distribution and a lot of depth, and a good coach too. But try to avoid some of the. I mean, Atlanta's a big city too, but try to avoid these big cities where you're going to be shouldering most of the team because that's not going to work.
I know a great big city for him.
Shut the hell up.
I mean, maybe you guys can fix it.
I also wanted to point out this was in terms of the Sixers fans hating Ben Simmons. I understand that patience is difficult. And like I said, I always think it's important for fans to support their team and their players, or else it could kill their confidence, even if it's not shown. One of the comments I had to use for my defense is, listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I said, Julius Randle, most improved player, right? Goes and shoots like 30% in the playoffs and has like 7 points a game after scoring 30 points a game. I was aggravated, but I didn't go and curse him out on Twitter and freak out. I mean, it is what it is. I know it was 1 year of Julius Randle versus 4 years of Ben Simmons, but if he does that for 3 years straight, of course I'm going to still support him because of his abilities in the regular season. It's just I got to keep rolling forward.
Well, I guess that's the difference between Philly fan and New York fan. Philly fans keep it real.
I'm patient.
We've been more than patient. Especially consider this. Look at who he was drafted with. First, Alonzo Ball, shown growth in the league, despite all the noise, shown growth. Simmons, no. Jason Tatum was one of his rivals for Rookie of the Year, grown in the league. Simmons, no. Donovan Mitchell wasn't even one of the top 3 picks in his draft class. He came out of nowhere. Many people thought he should have been Rookie of the Year, but still growing in the league.
My points that I threw out with people complaining about the draft pick is, remember that you guys took people like Jahlil Okafor at one point early in the draft, so it could be way worse. You took Markelle Fultz.
And where is he now?
But look, neither of them got that hate that Ben Simmons got, and Ben Simmons has done
because they didn't stay there that long. Ben Simmons had been there for 4 years.
I know, but either way, Ben Simmons has done way more for that organization than those two have, and neither of them got hate.
Way more. I don't know about that.
I think that he had a pretty big impact on the team his first few years. Um,
In regular
defense,
season, in the regular season, sure, I'll give you that because when it was Embiid there alone, they didn't make. Well, Embiid got hurt his first year,
right?
but
It was tough to evaluate.
yeah,
Um, it,
could notice despite Embiid and his folding in the playoffs and stuff, notice Philly fans don't give him a crap. You know
no,
why? Because at least they actually see some production. Maybe it could be subpar, but in the playoff, there is some level of production from him.
I,
That's
I,
the difference.
I just can't understand how Simmons gets all this hate and Fultz didn't get any hate after he's traded after like 1 year of being an absolute failure on the team.
Hold up, I'm pretty sure people did criticize.
But it
Well,
was
first,
barely
no, I
talked
don't.
about.
No, no, no. I don't think. You know what's the difference? I think with the case with Folds, I think Philly fans were just dismissive of him, as
Yeah,
in like just ignored him.
yeah,
Cause
and
we didn't even know, even when he was gonna play, we didn't even know how he was gonna fit in the lineup, but with freaking Embiid and Simmons anyway. Me personally, I think it was a mistake for Philly to trade Folds. I think they should have traded Tatum. I mean, no, drafted Tatum. I meant, but
yeah.
yeah, but still, they got him and they traded him. Like, did he even was he even in Philly for a full year?
I mean,
Yes,
I think
yes, he
Simmons would
was.
have loved to have been traded right away.
Yeah, I doubt. Well, looking back, yeah, in the moment, no.
but like I said, you guys valued him too highly, and then you paid him the max contract.
Because he showed a lot of potential in the first year. Plus, LeBron told him, "You could be better than me."
But if he showed a lot of potential and he did that for the city, and then he has 2 bad years, you go to hating him.
Yeah, because if he hasn't shown any growth at all, and it's one thing to
Some people
fold
don't
in
develop
the
though. We know that.
in this and look, and it's one thing to just fall in the playoff play subpar, but to be absolutely useless and irrelevant, and you're supposed to be, and you're one of the key pieces on our teams, especially in the regular season. You were the second best player on the team for most of the Sixers tenure. Like
He
no, like get this into 2018 when we lost to Kawhi and the Raptors. Do you recall Simmons getting any hate for that one?
not as
No,
much. No,
you see why you raised an eyebrow? No one said a word because he was essentially irrelevant there. Because everybody, you know who everyone's eyes were on? Jimmy, Embiid, and Tobias Ish.
but my point is he wasn't absolutely useless against the Hawks.
He was useless against the Hogs.
He averaged 9 assists. First off,
He he averaged 9 assists.
he averaged 9 assists against the Hawks the entire series. He had 13 in one of them as well. And
Okay.
so I'll read it off. He had 13 assists in game one, and then 5, 9, 9, 7, 7, and 10. All assists. Um,
Okay.
and then he averaged 7 rebounds a game too. So like,
At 6'10", that's not
but
impressive.
also keep in mind he never cracked 40 minutes. All of this was in 35 minutes and 35 to 25 minutes. He never got over that. So
Okay.
he wasn't on the floor a ton either. He was being bench left, but when he was on the floor, he was contributing in other ways that weren't scoring. The one thing I will say is he was fouling a lot though. He averaged 4 fouls a game, um, and then
What about his turnovers?
he averaged 2.3 for the series. So
Okay.
it was reasonable. I'm just saying statistically he wasn't as bad as everyone was making him out to be. It was his free throws.
On the eye test, though, watching him out there, those were empty
Right,
stats. Like
right.
nobody was really feeding off of those. I can bet you did. A lot of those assists were probably from long passes on the fast break,
Like
off like missed free throws.
because I can't understand why everyone gave him the blame in Game Seven. Because Game Seven, he had 35 minutes. Now he only
And
shot 4 shots.
yeah,
That was one of the problems. I'll give you that. But he had 4 fouls, which is really bad. But he had 13 assists and 9 rebounds.
nobody cares because when you pass up on, you know what? I keep telling you, Game 7, what everyone looks to is that he passed up that dunk.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, that play right there, because it was in the dying moments of the game, that could have actually made a difference for the win. Because I remember what happened afterwards. He passed up that wide open dunk to a smaller player who maybe like 6'5". I don't remember who it was. They put the shot up. they missed it, and they went to the line for 2 free throws, and they only made one. That could have been 2 points right there.
But you guys fixed the issue now because I think your problem was that you had Embiid alone. Now you have another big man. You got Andre Drummond to help fix that.
I think that's your way of saying let's end the show. Bottom line, Ben Simmons was useless. When you, because I know if you go back and watch, thinking back, watching those games, can you honestly say Ben Simmons was a contributor for the Sixers? Because both of us, we were saying the contributors were, well, Joel Embiid obviously had the best player, but number two was Seth Curry to both of us. Just look at overall in the series.
I think that Simmons was a good chunk of blame for the Sixers, but I think that both Doc Rivers and Tobias Harris did not get nearly enough blame.
All right, that's fair. That's fair enough. But the reason why the fans are hard on Simmons, we're using this year was just the last straw of him.
And
But now we're looking back and saying this guy's useless for us in the playoffs. The difference is this: I think we gotten to a point where this year we just did not expect him to like score like 20 plus
yeah,
points per game. But if you're seeing like a guy who many people gonna look at the second guy on the team, and you're 6'10", and your strength scoring wise is scoring at the rim, passing up an open dunk like that when we literally need anything right there, that was the last straw.
and we gotta keep in mind Embiid had only 2 more rebounds than Simmons in Game 7, and he had 6 more turnovers.
Yeah,
Embiid
Embiid
had
was
eight
also
turnovers in Game 7 and 8 turnovers in Game 6.
yeah. I mean, I said it like late in games, and most of a lot good chunk of it comes in the last 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
But at the same time, Embiid had near 40 points, and he was playing like on an injury as well.
I know. Like I said, I get that. That's hard to play through an injury.
Embiid
All
also got to point this out too. Embiid actually, if we looked at usage rate, Embiid probably had the ball in his hand more than Simmons too.
Here's the thing, and if we were to give blame in percentages, I think
Hmm.
that Simmons deserves 40% of the blame. I
Hmm.
think that Embiid deserves, I would say, 15% blame. So like that's we got
Yeah,
65%, so you got 35% left. Or no, I'll give Embiid
that's
10% of the blame, so that's
right.
50%. And then
Yeah,
I would split it 25 and 25 on Tobias Harris and Doc Rivers.
yeah.
Or no, I would go 25% on Doc Rivers, 20 on Tobias Harris, and then 5 on Seth Curry for being a defensive liability. But he usually made up for it in his shooting. He
Sure,
did
but the
have a
only
couple bad
yeah.
games though.
Yeah, he didn't shoot particularly well, but he deserved the least blame. And I'll say, in terms
Yeah,
of defense on that last game, I'm not even going to point that out there because Trey Young had a bad game too. That's what makes
right.
it more frustrating.
So, but I think that
But
Doc
but
Rivers and
I'm
Tobias
just glad.
Harris definitely deserve more blame.
Yeah, like even I did. Well, remember
Simmons deserves a majority though. I'll give you
yeah,
that.
I was toughest on Tobias actually in Game 6 because he played even worse. Then that was his worst game.
Because what everyone doesn't understand is, like Simmons is young, right? And he is supposed to be an all-star, but keep in mind Tobias is older and he's supposed to be an all-star. So he's supposed to be a veteran by now, and he's making a lot of bad mistakes on the court.
Yeah,
So I was surprised that no one ever talked about him.
but at the same time, Tobias wasn't an All Star this year though. Like he wasn't on the All Star team. Simmons was.
Yeah. Well, that was stupid because Tobias Harris
Yeah,
was averaging 20 a game. So,
yeah.
um,
As for Doc, yeah, like you were, I'm sure we could roll the tape in my Sixers rant.
oh, I was flipping out on Doc.
Yeah, but on my rant, I think I actually flipped out on Embiid the most, like just because of like those mistakes late in games.
Yeah.
But I just left Simmons alone because I knew he was just going to be useless. Like my expectation for Simmons was just gone because I saw it from the series before.
Here's my thing though. I never understood why Tobias Harris was playing power forward for you guys, because I never considered him power forward. I think he's good, but I think that he should be playing small forward. And I think
No,
that
I think so too. But the thing we just didn't have a
I don't know.
power forward anymore. That was the problem. Cause remember, Dario Saric, he was our power forward for a while.
Yeah, like imagine if you had Julius Randle at power forward and it was Embiid at center, and then you had small forward with Tobias Harris, and then shooting guard with
Mm.
Seth Curry. You wouldn't really have to worry as much about Simmons either, because now with him being your power forward, Tobias Harris, now you
Mhm.
establish that your second tallest guy in the court is Ben Simmons, and you expect him to get a majority of the boards with Embiid, which is a problem for a point guard. I mean, you
Yeah,
want him to, but you also want your point guard to be able to go and run back and try to get a fast break. You don't want to have to force him to crash the boards.
yeah, but nobody shits on Simmons for that though.
No, I
Nobody
know. No
does.
one talks about it. I just think
Yeah.
that adds an unfair aspect of the game where
Bottom line is this: the man not it's not the man's inability to shoot. The man refuses to shoot or is scared to shoot the ball, and it screws up the team offense. Like literally, if his willingness to shoot will open up many things for himself, even.
I think he's just afraid that he's going to go 3-20. And this is something I commented with someone else. I was like, they're like, I don't know why he doesn't take the open shots. I don't care if he misses. And I was like, listen, you say that now. I was like, but the first two games where Embiid goes and shoots 3 for 20, I think you guys are going to be losing your minds.
But that's the big difference. Embiid Simmons is not a scorer. Embiid is our main scorer. That's the big difference. Like Simmons, like I told you, when we see on TV, the Philly fans, even Embiid, everyone, just when they saw him putting the shot up, they got hyped. Like they're not, because we know regardless, even if Simmons starts shooting jump shots, he's not going to take a large percentage of shots for the team.
Yeah.
So no, you know who is gonna clown Simmons and stuff? It's the other fans outside the Phillies organization. They're the ones that's gonna clown him for the missed shots. Philly fans will just be excited when he actually starts shooting. Other teams, even if he starts shooting, they want to see him shoot. I bet you that.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. And this is going to be a bold prediction. Hopefully, we can mark this. I am willing to bet lunch. And this is going to be like a year-long bet that whichever team Simmons plays for, when he plays the Sixers, he's going to score 25 plus.
Okay.
Because I think he's going to throw the biggest FU to the
Oh
Philadelphia
wait, wait, wait.
fans.
Oh, all right. Because I was gonna say, all right. Because if this on the East, or we're not talking playoffs, that would be
No,
too bold of a bet.
no,
That's
whenever
all
he
right.
faces Philly first,
Okay.
he's going to show out. We'll see. I'm telling you, everything,
So
all that confidence is just going to go out the window because he's like, these guys are already my enemy. I'm going to show them all.
okay. Yes, 25 points.
All right.
All right.
I think that's all we got for today.
Yep.
All right. Without further ado, have a good rest of your week, everybody. Not too much going on in the sports world. I don't know if
Oh,
anyone saw Jake Paul face Tyron Woodley. That was interesting to say the least. Jake Paul also retired for now. I don't know if that means you got football coming this Sunday. Can't
yeah.
wait.
I have an announcement to make. This year, I'm going to actually like really, really try to like finally get into football. Like this year, I'm going to make the effort. But I told one of my other friends this, but I'm counting on you two to like help me keep track of the games. Let me know there's a game on or one in particular that you tell me is like a must watch.
All right, do you have cable at your?
I can stream these games for free.
Okay.
I have websites.
All right, I was gonna say because I'll tell you the games that I think are gonna be good matchups or when the Eagles are playing.
Okay.
All right. Without further ado, hope you all have a good rest of your week. Enjoy the first game of football this coming Thursday: Cowboys versus Bucks. Tom Brady versus America's team. Um,
Stephen A's team.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll see Tom Brady floor the Cowboys. Even though Tom Brady's not my favorite, should be a good game though.
Oh, and one more thing for all you viewers out there, because they're going to be playing the Cowboys, be sure to tune in the first take tomorrow morning, because like as we all know, Max Kellerman, he's no longer on the show. First take's going to go downhill from there, I think. But tomorrow will be a nice refresher because the new dynamic is it will be Stephen A. Smith versus like different like analysts or former players. And Monday, our Monday regular is going to be his good old friend Michael Irvin.
Oh, so
Yeah,
hopefully, well, next Monday is when they'll because the game's Thursday. But
I know, but you know when Michael Irvin had the
yeah,
cowboy pop up on enough to Stephen A.
do they do first take on Fridays or no?
Yeah, they do Monday through Friday.
Who's on Friday? Because that's gonna be the first reaction.
Oh, that I don't know, but
Okay.
I can't wait for the predictions tomorrow.
Yeah, and I can't wait till next Monday
Yeah,
when it's Michael Irvin and Stephen A. following the game.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
who knows? Michael Irvin might call out sick if they lose.
Yeah, he probably will. He always predicts them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Without further ado, have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next week.